Mr. Bill McDonell, how are you?
I'm doing well, Dom. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm really good. And I'm really happy to be seeing you. You and I have known each other for many years,
Probably 25 or more.
25 or more. Well, because both of us can only count as high as 25. So for the rest of our lives, we're just going to say 25 or more.
Deal. It's a deal.
Yeah. But you've always had a really, the reason I asked you on the show is because you have a very interesting background, especially in this industry that we talk to here. So actually, why don't I put it in your hands? Bill, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and why you would be talking to a group of construction and contracting professionals around the world?
Sure. Start off, my name is Bill McDonell. Been in the construction industry now for 27 years. Started at a high school entry level and moved around and moved my way up and made a good living out of construction. And I'm excited about the opportunity you give me here, Dom, to be able to talk about construction with other construction-minded people because I really like talking shop, and it's nice to have an audience that might get an idea of what I'm actually talking about, other than the family tuning me out every time I talk about work. So
They're just
yeah,
polite.
yeah,
Yes, Dad.
good.
Yes, Dad. Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, give us a scope on your background, because if I'm not mistaken, you've been in private industry. Didn't you work for the city for a while?
Yeah. Actually, I started off in private construction in 1993, a variety of jobs, but quickly ended up in the civil construction sector here. So been in civil construction since 1994. Worked for a private civil utility underground contractor for 10 years, and then moved over to the municipal side of the business. I ended up working for one of the cities here, probably the third largest city in the region. So not the biggest city, but had
Big.
all the bells and whistles and all the engineering and civil goods and bads that you'd expect to come across just about in any jurisdiction. So I did that for 15 years, and and then I'm back on the private side now for the last 3 years with the original company I started with. So
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So I started with a civil utility underground construction company, and we worked there for 10 years. I worked my way up the ladder from from labor to machine operator, and everything in between up to foreman. And then when I got to the city, I ended up being a civil inspector for the engineering department.
Yeah.
Dealing with all engineering department civil deliverables for the city, as far as developers building roads and infrastructure for the city, and the city inheriting
Right.
those utilities and those assets, and new civil construction and maintenance. And then after 15 years of that, I moved back into the private side, as I mentioned earlier. And now I work as a superintendent for this company, Fred Thompson Contractors, that I work for. And we are a civil underground utility construction company. So
Everything underground.
Everything underground, and some stuff above ground, but not much. So we install water main, sewer main, street light, telecommunication, mostly underground electrical, conduit, duct
Right.
bank structures, and systems like that.
So as soon as I said inspector, you work for the city,
Mhm.
a lot of the people listening here are private guys, and they're dealing with inspectors and inspections. Have you got
Here come the boo
if you were to
birds.
give us, what's that?
Here come the boo birds, right? The inspectors aren't always so popular, right? Yeah.
Well, but I think we can learn from you though. Really, because people, you're not inspecting my job right now. So if we were just sitting around having a beer or a coffee, and I said,
Mhm.
hey, listen, man, tell me the three things, two things, whatever it is, where do people start to go wrong when they're trying to get a job done, and they say the inspector's in my way. The inspector's not in your way, right? But where are people going wrong, and how can they make it go smoothly?
Next to your customer, the inspector is probably one of the most critical people you're going to deal with on a construction site. Private construction or in the municipal world, in the city owned right of ways. The inspectors, they represent the engineer of record for whatever's being constructed or put in the ground. So, they're very important people to have on your side. And, whether it's house construction, which, I have a lot of background in house construction and commercial construction, the inspectors are a wealth of knowledge, because if you ask them the right questions, you're going to find out how you're doing and what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. The inspectors, as cantankerous as some of them can be, can really be one of your best friends. And, a wise man once told me, I prefer to do business with my enemies over my friends, because my friends are usually the first ones to pick my pocket. And the inspectors, they don't have a horse in the race as far as dollars and cents goes.
Good way to say it. Yeah.
They want it done right. They don't want problems down the road. And, they're a wealth of knowledge. So, making sure you're keeping the inspectors happy will ultimately make sure that what you're delivering is proper and functioning well, right? And going to keep your customers happy. And, On
the personal side, how can I make it go wrong right out of the gate with an inspector?
Oh,
and this whole interview is not just going to be about inspectors, but it's something that I think everybody's going to, because we've got everybody listening. We got guys that do solar, electrical, HVAC, remodeling, brand new construction. It's not all just civil guys. So we're just talking in general. When you make that first introduction to the inspector, how do you get started on the right foot?
Yeah, well, inspectors or contract administrators, they deal with a lot of people and probably have limited scope for dealing with time wasting antics and people who don't want to do things the right way. So, treating the inspector fairly, almost as good as your customer, is a great way to get off on the right foot. Everyone has feelings. And if you're going to hurt the inspector's feelings or the contract administrator's feelings, you're probably going to feel at some point along the way. So, so not offending them, not treating, inspection and contract administrators like they don't know what they're doing, or being condescending. Very, very not recommended from my experience.
Very not recommended. Yeah, I gotcha. Very not recommended.
Yeah, well, and coming from both sides of the aisle, previously working in private industry, then going into the public side of things and being the inspector. I was a senior inspector at the city for a number of years. So, having to manage the inspectors and hearing their complaints about how they were being treated by the contractors. Some really good, entertaining stories, right? And, when people are offended, they have a long memory. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hard to rebuild a relationship. Right. And, sometimes you can't escape these folks, you win a job in a municipality where you're not getting along with the inspector 10 years ago. Chances are they're going to remember you 10 years later. Right. So
suddenly you're wondering about profitability and job overruns and why we're getting held back and somebody's not going to show up. It's sometimes, you can get hurt by faint praise. It doesn't have to be direct, but
the white gloves go on. Yeah, the white gloves go on. And the inspector's gonna, he's gonna go through your job with a fine tooth comb, and you're gonna suffer. And you mentioned earlier, folks in these new cutting edge energy technology builds, right? This is uncharted territory, right? So you can help define and regulate what is important as far as inspection goes and what gets delivered, and you can have some real foundational say in how that business is going to be shaped going forward. You look at old industries, paving, water mains, sewer mains. Sure, some of the technologies change. Sure, some of the materials change, but it's the oldest game in town. And, and guys.
You mean Roman aqueducts aren't new?
Right. To some people, maybe, but that you're not reinventing the wheel. So don't try to reinvent the wheel, and don't try to pull a fast one on the inspector, or else usually ends badly.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I talk to people about is treat this like a business, not like a high school.
Yeah.
We all have jobs to do. Everybody here we're on a crew. We have a job to do. And so this is not a high school. It's not a TV show. Let's run it.
No style points.
Yeah, no points for style, no points for being big kid on campus. Just get her done.
Get it done. And whether it's, dealing with your customers, the municipality where you're working, and if you're making emotional decisions and your heart's steering the ship, then you're going to end up in hot water. If you're keeping calm and keeping cool and thinking with your head and making those decisions with your brain, then you're going to be fine. Right. And don't treat it like a high school, for sure. I agree.
you bring up a good point, because you're dealing with water mains and sewer mains. Have
Mhm.
things not gone badly when you're like, oh my God, what's coming out of that pipe and how do we fix it?
Why is it inside my boot? It's not supposed to be inside my boot. It's supposed to be in the pipe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
for
isn't
sure.
supposed to be. Yeah. I mean, I've seen those things happen too, and it's never fun. But, it's how you handle yourself in those situations too that other people judge you by, right?
For sure, for sure. And in a panic situation, if you are making your customer or the inspector or contract administrator happy when when things are going really wrong and the clock's ticking and you have to get off the road or you have to open the road back up or the water main has to be turned back on or the customer needs their electrical service back on or the new high rise has to be plugged in for telecommunication. When things are going really wrong and you can think cool and calm and collected under pressure and find a solution that works for everyone, yeah, that's a win. And that goes a long way. And that can erase a lot of bad blood. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mean to go down the inspector path, but it's such a hot topic for so many people because it seems like it's this curtain of Oz, the Wizard of Oz. We just don't know what goes on, and then suddenly this voice comes through and says, "Do this different," and then they go back away, and okay.
There
But
it is.
anyways, that wasn't the purpose of today. Today, I wanted to talk to you a lot about where you see things going wrong, or as I just rewrote the question in my books, if you could write a note and put it on the window of every construction business owner's car or truck and walk
Mhm.
away without them seeing it. Well, you're the field guy, you're the field expert. You've been a foreman, you've been on the crew, you've been on the government side, you've been on the
Yep.
private side.
Mhm.
What advice would you give owners on how to keep this thing running smoothly and profitably?
Walk that fine line between delivering your product and keeping your customer happy. So your
Huh.
customers, they're here today, you want them there tomorrow, right? And sometimes you got to make tough decisions and you got to take the emotion out of it and help your customer understand that what you're trying to do is in their best interest and in your best interest, and you both want to be in business tomorrow and you both want to
Mm.
work together tomorrow, you know and you got two ears and one mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk, unlike you and myself on this show, and you'll go far on delivering for your customer, right? Like, if your customer is questioning why you're doing things, just have them keep asking those questions and injecting more information into the question and their own answers within their question. You just have to help them see it, right?
Right.
And you have to help make that answer work within your framework for productivity and profitability.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds so easy. I don't know why it doesn't work all the time.
Well, because I mean, sometimes you get people who are just plain unreasonable, but it sounds like you're talking about educating the customer as much as you can, like staying calm,
Absolutely.
cool, and collected. And by the way, the amount of times you said "stay calm" makes me feel like you've seen people lose their minds.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Worked with a lot of colorful and interesting people along the way. And, as you summed up, educating your customer, too much technology can be a bad thing. But one thing I've found in my limited experience dealing with computers is there's certain tools on everyone's computer that can help you take snapshots of pictures or snapshots of drawings or blueprints or diagrams
Mm.
or memos, and taking those specific pieces of information out of those drawings, out of those memos, and conveying them in an email that's short, concise,
Short and
not
concise. Oh,
and
please.
and
We
not
don't need
bloated.
another long email. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I've got a system where I've distilled I've been able to distill the information that I'm trying to convey and make it as digestible as possible, right? And helping my customers understand this is the essence of what we're trying to achieve, right? This is why this drawing isn't working. This is why this drawing didn't work, and we have to go back and do it. And this is, you hired your consultant to design this drawing, and this is where they went wrong. This is where you can see right here, this is where they didn't do that special bit of homework that helps make this, road, sewer, water, electrical system work, right? So,
Right.
being able to take that bit of information and package it so that they can understand the light goes on, they have that aha moment, and they feel like you're opening it up in a way that, is helping them understand, and you're not trying to hold back anything, right? Like we're all looking at the same information. Let's all try to look at it the same way. So
Yeah. I would imagine you're not just inventing bedrock
no,
out of the blue.
no,
You're not installing bedrock to make the job go longer or harder or cost more. The bedrock was just there and the consultant didn't see it or didn't read the
yeah,
geos
and
right.
time, or they're not reading the particulars of the contract language, right? As far as, hey, we have to put in a change order because we've come across a situation that is unforeseen site condition, and a change that we have to capture and bill accordingly for it. Well, you can't do this, and this says that, and if you're blasting out a rock, you charge this much per square meter or per square foot or wherever you're from. But yeah, that's under specific situations and circumstances. Here are some photos and diagrams of what we encountered, where we encountered it, and what we had to do to deal with it, right? And we're more than happy to honor our unit price based on the descriptors in the contract. But if it doesn't line up, then we have to think outside the box, and we have to come up with a solution that works for everyone. So,
Well, you've run that script a few times, Bill.
I read it in my sleep. Yeah, totally.
I love it. And and the takeaway we're looking for here is so that business owners understand that when you're doing a home reno and you've got it doesn't matter whether it's an inspector or the homeowner, you're going to run into problems. You're going to run into vermiculite. You're going to run into the old plumbing problem or a copper pipe that you can see is about to go.
Yeah.
And say,
let's deal with it now.
Deal with it now, because yes, it's going to cost, pick a number out of the year. It's going to cost $2,000 to deal with it now. But wouldn't you rather deal with it now instead of us drywalling everything, putting in that carpet, that tile, finishing everything nicely, and then you just hear,
in the middle of the night, and you wonder why you're in a puddle of water.
And you wonder why, and you say, we should have dealt with that before. Run your new plumbing now, whatever the situation is, but deal with the situation up front with good communication. And I would have to add, I think a lack of communication is the key cause of so many problems I see.
And as much technology as we have at our disposal, even our phones are so powerful now. Taking a picture, sending a text, sending an email can, save some explaining down the road. Like the road failed, pardon me. And we want to know why. You're on your 10% holdback for warranty, and we're not going to give it to you because the road failed and we have a sinkhole now. Well, I sent you this text message, or I sent you this email with a picture and some information saying there's some substructure issues here in the road. We need to deal with it now, or you're going to deal with it later. And hopefully when you deal with it, it's outside the warranty period. Well, this time it wasn't outside the warranty period. And now you're trying to stick me with the repair bill when I clearly pointed out, and I pointed out to your consultant or to the inspector or everyone else who was involved in that email chain. There's a problem here. We're identifying a problem now, because if it's a problem down the road, we don't want to get stuck with it. Right. So, and unfortunately,
and
sometimes
safety, right. And it's a safety thing, right? Like, I would imagine a road failing, that makes for really good video.
Right? Yes. Russian dash cams. Yeah, for sure. Right.
You don't want to see that.
No,
what are those called? Meanwhile, in Russia, and you look down in this massive hole, and there's an entire tractor trailer unit down there. You're like, that is a big sinkhole.
That's not good. Hopefully, there's an email supporting that document. But anyways, so you don't want to stick your customer's face in it all the time, but sometimes you have to protect yourself. And
factual,
right?
Documented communication and consistency in communication. And one of the things we talk about on the show, Bill, a lot is simple systems. Just have a handful of simple systems. So this is the type of communication we send at the end of the day, or at the end of the week, or at the start of the job, or at the end of the job. Have those systems that are consistent, because then it's easy for you to track back to it. It's easy for the customer to reference. It's just easier when you have simple systems instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and have a different format for every email.
And no one wants to have to download a proprietary system to be able to look at inspection reports for your project, right? Like, make it in a language and on a platform that everyone can use and everyone can understand, right? We work for a fellow who's 74 years old. He reads every email that comes into the company, right? So, it's packaged for him. Like email works for that guy, someone who, has come a long way as far as technology goes, but he
Right.
can do this. Just about anyone in the Western world can open up an email and read and download some content and understand what's going on. Yeah, like you say, keep it simple, right? Concise and to the point.
Yeah, nice, simple systems. So that's
Simple.
what you would write on a note for all the construction and contracting business owners out there. You'd write that on a note. You'd tuck
Mhm.
it under their windshield and you'd slowly walk away.
Yeah, keep your customers happy, but don't stick their nose in it.
Yeah, yeah. So anything else that as a field guy you've seen that maybe gave you you just wish this could have been solved before we started up the trucks.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's one bit of the business that I really enjoy dealing with. And sometimes when you enjoy dealing with something, you end up being better at it. And dealing with some of our suppliers and trying to make sure we're maximizing the pricing that we're getting from our suppliers. So whether it be our pipe suppliers, our trucking subcontractors, our safety consultants, where we dump soil, or concrete and gravel suppliers, being able to, it takes a bit of effort, but once you get that system underway, you can look at your suppliers, look at what they're invoicing you, and get pricing from other folks, right? It's the oldest game in town, right?
Do your research. Yeah.
Do your research, and it's
Know
some
your
good
numbers.
reading, right? And so, like, and some of our suppliers along the way, I have to ask myself, why are they more on that sprocket when they're selling the same sprocket down the street for, a significant difference, right? And sometimes it's as simple as, well, that supplier also sells plumbing supplies, and that guy and he sells electrical supplies. The other guys only sell electrical supplies. So some of the supplies that cross
Yeah.
into each industry, with his volume, he's getting it for cheaper. So I'm going to buy those components from him, right? And I really enjoy that part of the business. I didn't think, it just dawned on me one day. I really liked that, shaving the percentages here and there, and understanding and understanding what their point of view is and what their limitations are, right? And so,
Well, they do have limitations. I mean, they've got some, especially now, international trade. The freighters aren't coming in as they used to in a lot of places, and then the trucks are having their problems getting across the borders, and that impacts the price of pipe or mortar or who knows
anything.
what. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's real specific materials that are every industry has, whether it's electrical or plumbing or anything. And some folks are trying to finish a job, and there's a part that isn't available because of COVID delays somewhere in some town I've never heard of, right? But we're all feeling the same pinch, right? So
Yeah.
So the suppliers do have their issues, and whether it be getting pipe for water or sewer or electrical or telephone conduit, if it's PVC based, it's really fluctuating all the time based on oil prices, or there's always a hurricane at some plant somewhere in a town I've never heard of. Yeah. And but when I hear the same reasoning from all the suppliers across the board, okay, then it adds up. Right. And then I can deal with it, and I don't struggle with those price increases when I'm getting consistent information from all the suppliers. Right. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, it goes to the simplicity, again, the simple systems. Check your invoices, check your bills. If you're paying so much for abrasives or adhesives, and then it's easy to make a mistake. I thought we were paying $83 a unit. We're being charged $85 a unit. To me, I might miss that number switch, right? I might miss that. And so I need somebody else. I need a system where it gets checked by me, and then somebody else every once in a while checks it and says, hey, hold on a second. I thought our price was this. And it just keeps people honest. They make mistakes just like we do at work. They didn't wake up in the morning, pour their coffee and say, you know what I'm going to do? Ravino Contracting is going to get it today. We're going to charge them an extra $3. for 'em.
Oh,
We're going to get them. They don't do that. It's just a mistake that echoes.
yeah, totally. And I'm sure some suppliers have their production meetings, and they sit around the table and say, okay, well, we have to crank up the price on these units. And so, sometimes we'll look at our invoices and say, there's a price increase here. What's this about? And it might be on a unit that, we don't use a lot or not often.
Like a
But if
specialty unit, you mean?
yeah, exactly. But if it's something like that we are using daily, we really have to make sure that,
They can
those
add
units
up.
are, yeah, it really can. It adds up fast. And, you said reviewing your invoices, we find that having more than one set of eyes on the invoicing, right, can really help, and exchanging those ideas and keeping some files on, okay, these are going up again, and the suppliers have warned us that at the end of the year, we can get some same year pricing into the next quarter. So let's buy a bunch and ask them to store it for us, right? And
Right?
we'll
Smart.
yeah, and work with them, and they're more than happy to work with us to let us pre-purchase a bunch of stuff that we don't plan on using for 3, 4, 5 months,
And they can
right?
store it. There are programs available from vendors that we don't hear about because we don't ask the right questions. It's the
Yeah.
same as, when you have a friend who works for the phone company and they tell you that one little tip, like when you call in because you've got a customer service problem, ask for the win back team and then demand a ticket number. And suddenly your life changes. You're like, oh my God, I get things solved because I knew to go to
Yeah.
the win back team and I knew to ask for a ticket. It's kind of the same in our industry. This won't work in all situations, in all cases. But if you're buying a lot of a particular product through a particular vendor, you can
Mhm.
actually ask them if they have a co-op program.
Okay.
Because some vendors have a
Mhm.
program where they're like, for every 10,000 you buy, we're gonna help you do your marketing to the tune of this much, or we're
Mhm.
gonna lean in and kick in. We might help you with a company picnic or something. If I
Okay.
don't ask, it ain't gonna happen.
No.
But if I ask, it might. And
Yeah.
all of those things have value, right?
Mhm.
Retaining me as a client has value to them. Me
Mhm.
finding other ways to get value from a supplier has value there as well. And I really
Mhm.
like what you did. One of the value points you said is, look, oh, sure, we'll buy it. We'll tie into the price. Can you store it for us?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
storage has a cost. There's a value there. There's an inherent value.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
great.
sometimes it's all about winning, right? Who's winning the debate, who's winning the argument. No, you're holding on to it
Who's
for not
winning?
4 months, 5 months, or else I'm going across the street.
Yeah, oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, no, we're making it sound very easy here.
Yeah, yeah,
Bill,
yeah.
I love having you on the show. This is great. You clearly have a depth of understanding in this business that's beyond what I knew.
Yeah. Well,
Beyond what I knew. When I
we're
first
getting
met you, I don't think either of us were shaving yet. I mean,
there.
maybe we'd done it once or twice, but that's about it.
Just to see how it feels,
Yeah.
just to
Uh,
give it a shot.
so for people that don't know, I've written a book about the construction industry. It's called Construction Millionaire Secrets. And if
Okay.
you want to get it, amazingly, you go to constructionmillionairesecrets.com and you can get a download there. Um, Bill, thank you so much for joining us here. I know it's late night. You worked late tonight because you were doing change orders, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Got to keep on top of those change orders, right? And fine tune them and make sure you're maximizing every bit of ink on that paper, right? For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of money can be lost in those. So I'm glad you're doing it.
Awesome, Don.
All right, Bill, thank you so much. We'll look forward to having you back on the show one day again.
Appreciate it, Dom. You take care.
Thanks, you too.
All the best.
Bye.
Bye.